Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you guys so much for keeping up to date with this. And I'm going to try to make this intro as brief as possible as people pour in. We've already got a super chat out there saying thank you again so much for the super chats. I will try to answer all the super chats as I go through this. So I know a lot of you who aren't really familiar with anything but the Dark Overlord and maybe have missed some of my videos don't understand why James Woods is in any way significant to 9/11. Well, right here you're going to see a folder, and right there is James Woods' name. And this is in regards to these 9/11 lawsuits. This, again, for me, someone who reported on what we're about to go over and actually found out some new details from this document, is more confirmation that these documents are indeed legitimate. Period. They're real. I've yet to see a forgery. The person I was contacting about Layer 3, he did not contact me back after the initial contact, but if you go to his Twitter, you can see that he is a computer forensics guy, a cybersecurity guy, and he's saying, hey, these are real. And ask and you shall receive. I put it out there. I said, hey, you guys want to look for things, for instance, the people that are looking for Israeli involvement, I'm like, you should be looking for Otigo. Okay, that's a name you should be looking for. Possibly Gelatin, I'm aware of that information, but Otigo actually rented buildings there. And I said, you should be looking for people like James Woods. Okay? Another person maybe you should be looking for is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, because what these lawyers are, and I'm going to show you this, what these lawyers are trying to do is they're trying to play the scenario that they shouldn't have allowed this, that the mistakes were made or they let it happen on purpose. There's a lot of stuff here, and I've seen a lot of people write things. For instance, apparently there's one document claiming they have video of the hijackers in one of the cockpits. Whether we see that video, whether that's part of this, whether the lawyers are able to obtain that is a big question. And I still have that question. But what I want to do right now is I want to roll it back to my documentary from 2008. It's free online. It's called Fabled Enemies. It's something I think that everybody should have because this is a great reference to this material, period. Okay? The references in Fabled Enemies, they're rapid, but they're names you can search for. Okay? They're names that may lead you to other things, and you have to have a large understanding of so many issues on 9/11 to even know what you're looking at. So let's play this small clip from Fabled Enemies. And earlier, if you scroll up, I put the link to the whole film in there for you guys.
Based on my personal belief and based on the events of that morning, the decision to halt airplanes, in all likelihood, probably precluded other attacks.
Atta and 3 others would do dry runs of the attacks before 9/11. Actor James Woods and others on the plane even filed separate reports to the FAA. Again, nothing was done.
I was on a flight, without going into the details of what made me suspicious of these 4 men, although it would have been blatantly obvious to the most casual observer, I took it upon myself to go to the flight attendant and ask to speak to the pilot of the plane. The first officer came out. I reported to him that I felt that the 4 men, and I said, can you look over my shoulder and see who I'm talking about? And he said, yeah. I said, I think they're going to hijack this plane. I mean, everything they're doing, and I explained to him these details, which I've been asked to keep private until whatever jurisdiction, whatever trials may take place. Their behavior was such that I felt they were going to hijack the plane. I found out later that not only did he make a report, but the flight attendant also made a report of my suspicions to the FAA. My friend Scott said to me, remember that flight you took in August? I said, yeah, I've been thinking about it all day. He said, well, maybe you should call the FBI. And I said, I'm sure they're being inundated, but I thought it over and I called the local office. 6:45 the next morning, I get a phone call that actually wakes me up, and he said, we want to talk to you about the flight that you took in August. I said, oh, did the manifest match of any of the flights yesterday and my flight? He said, well, we can't tell you that. I said, well, look, I'll get ready and I'll come down to the federal building. He said, we're outside your house. We'll just wait for you.
Wow, 7:15. So this is
6:45 in the morning. I said, and this is the only funny part of any of this, I said, how did you know where I lived? And there was a pause. He said, we're the FBI. We're the FBI, thank you. So they came in and I said, look, I'm dying to know, were these the guys? And he said, well, we've had 36,000 tips in one day. And there's 2 of us, and we're going to be at your house all this morning, so you can do the math, but we can't tell you, So since then, I have identified for sure 2 of them as 2 of the terrorists,
really?
Who actually were not on Flight 11, but one was on Flight 175 and one was on Flight 77. And I've been told unofficially, not by the FBI, but by someone else in actually a higher level of government, believe it or not, just through a coincidence, through a mutual friend, that all 4 of them were terrorists involved. As I explained to the FBI, they said, what was your first instinct? And aside from certain things like 4 guys getting on a transcontinental flight without any hand luggage, they said to me, what did you think these guys were? I said, well, I thought they were either 4 law enforcement officers or 4 terrorists, in that they had that thing that guys who are undercover or on a mission have between each other.
Just more evidence.
So, why is this significant today? Well, one, you notice how he talked about Flight 11. Well, in this paperwork, it's revealed that they think that he was on Flight 11, American Airlines 11, the same exact plane. So these hijackers may have been casing the exact planes that they took. And let's scroll up through here. So what they're referencing really here are different, they call him actually a creepy actor. Basically, in the wake of 9/11, James Woods didn't want to go out. And because September 12th, he had the FBI, or I believe it was September 13th, he had the FBI, because he called it in on September 12th. So here he told the FBI last week that he was alone in first class with 4 men. So now here's another significant thing. Okay? What we have here is, later on you're going to see these are lawyers going back and forth. What we don't have is the initial report filed when James Woods did this. And remember, that's only a month before. They should have been able to get that. And we're going to get to why maybe the lawyers do have that and don't have that. We're on layer 2. Supposedly 3 more layers. But I got to be honest, I'm not that hopeful that they got as much damning information as they've led us to believe. Okay? And again, you look at this document and he says, alone with 4 individuals. Now, you just heard his testimony. He talked to the stewardess. He talked to the pilot. They all filed reports. Nothing was done. Can you imagine if you were with 3 other people, all of which were on the FBI's radar? And again, he's saying that they were on separate flights, not supposed to know each other. That's all part of the official version and lie. And we're going to go over these lies in a moment. But again, when they talk about this dry run for September 11th, here it is right here. And they're talking about it. Federal agents do visit him at his home on September 13th, interview him in detail. So now we have 2 pieces of documentation that we should have. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't think we're going to get that FBI interview. We'll get there in a moment. I'll show you a document why. Now, again, we have all this stuff. Now, later on it says that there were 14 people on the manifest. So they go back in and they say, let's see, he says basically that he's embellished it. It was probably a Boston to LAX trip. He reported that he only had 4 in first class and they were suspicious Middle Eastern men. He stated that they did not eat, drink, or talk and merely sat expressionless. But actually, and let's get my head out of here, zooming in a little bit for you. It says, actually, there were 14 other people. The FBI interviewed Woods, who is reportedly a fine fellow. But see, here's the discrepancy. Now, are we going to get any more documentation on this? Again, not that hopeful. And I'm going to show you why that we probably can't be that hopeful that we're going to get this document. Again, the pre-document where he files a report before 9/11, and then the FBI interviews after the fact. Those are 2 things I think that the lawyers should be privy to. Will they get them? Well, it's a big question. Before I answer that question, I'm going to bring this PowerPoint to do that in a moment. I want to thank people for the super chat. Kleiper, hey Pulse, did you happen to read the discussion in the comments section of your last vid? You can use Microsoft's PowerShell application to do a thorough lexical analysis of all the documents at once. I do need to do that. However, it's not quite as simple as that. Why is it not as simple as that? So, a lot of these are scanned documents. So, in order to do that, first I've got to go in, figure out which ones are the scanned documents in PDF format. Then I have to convert them to actual searchable text, which is completely doable and is done all the time. Then you also have a ton of, let's see, you have a ton of emails out there, and they have more documents inside of them, attachments. So when you're looking at these attachments, they also have scans of PDF files. I'm not saying that that's not a great idea, and I do need to get a little bit more savvy on that. I was looking at some, I think it was, what was it, Notepad++. I'm trying to get these into a database so that I can search people, because like this, what is it, Alice Trandy, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you for this. Anything about Beverly Eckert? Again, I've heard that name. I'm not quite sure in relation. It could be searched through that PowerShell, but not everything. And when I was just talking about the fact that we're probably not going to get more James Woods documents, what we have here is, again, remember these are law documents. These are people suing. That's when someone tells you that they've had them the whole time. This is a 2009 document, okay? Lawsuits are still going. Now, right here, this is a January 2009 meeting, okay? About 9 years ago. Emphasized documented terrorist threat and poor security performance escalating in 2001. So again, they're trying to establish government negligence. And then right here, established through documents from defendants and SSI from the government that airlines are aware of threat and poor performance. And it's decry, deny, and delay. Okay? Not let's tell the truth. It's decry, deny, and delay. And as we scroll through this more and more, you're going to see that of course they didn't give them all these documents. Notice that we're talking about SSI documents right there. Those are the special security information that the Dark Overlord claimed they had, and they are showing these SSI documents. But again, how sensitive are these security documents in reality? Okay? Depose all screeners for what they knew and did not know. And in this document, I think it reveals over 170 interviews and still many more to go. Their depositions. Here we go. Expert testimony for the screening equipment to show capabilities. Motion for summary judgment to limit WTCP damages. Now, in this, they actually talk about Building 7's damages. There's another document I'm going to skip to really quickly. And, you know, I'm not sure if this is where they actually lost, but let's zoom in here. You got to understand, 7 World Trade Center, they sued saying the construction involved. Con Edison, which was below, various entities, the construction and operation of the space within 7 World Trade Center. So in other words, right here, look, construction. So these people had to defend themselves. No, we built a really sturdy building. It's kind of separate. So another big thing to look at. I'm going to go back to that document, and we're going to show you how the 9/11 Commission and the FBI also did not want to readily share documentation with these lawyers. I want to go to these super chats real quick. Kleiper, again, thank you so much for the super chats, my man. I think it searches PDFs and all other files as well. I do agree it searches PDFs, but what I'm telling you is before it can search the PDF, it has to be converted into a Word format. So a lot of these are, I mean, if I just, do I have them open over here? I'm sure if I just open up a random one. Let's see, I don't want to just do that, but why not, right? Okay, so that's not a scan. Next. Oh, this one looks like a scan. So, no, that's text. You're going to prove me a liar. Here we go. So this one here is a scan. Now, it's not even going to actually be able to convert a lot of this cursive here. A lot of this stuff, these signatures, these dates, this stuff here, that can all be converted more than likely through OCR software or whatever. Again, I'm not saying that putting this in a database and looking through this stuff is not the way to go. It absolutely is the way to go for a first run through. But the bottom line is, again, you look at this James Woods document, and it's one that would have had to be converted to find James Woods in here. You know, there was no text, just to let you know. So we had another one, and it's from Trevor Griffin. Thanks for all you do. You are a true patriot. Thank you, brother. I've been at this a long time, And again, your support means everything to me. The truth about 9/11 means everything to me. It is still why we are in the state of decay we are in this country and the world. It's the basis for our entire foreign and domestic policy, our aggression in the Middle East, and the ratcheting up of a police state here at home again and again and again. And that's not something, Trump is talking about. I'm not here to bash Trump, by the way. I think a lot of the criticism against him is actually unfair, but there's valid criticism of him, and he's, not a supporter of Julian Assange. He's not a supporter of Edward Snowden. He could not provide us the 9/11, the JFK documents he twice said we were going to have. Twice. So there are real problems there. But again, I'm not here to rap on Trump right now. I am here to go back to this document right here. Okay? So when we look here, let's go back over here. We're looking at damage chart payouts. We're looking at plans going forward. And some of these are actually doubled over. But here you go. Opinion and order on discovery and evidence. Aviation defendants seek depositions of FBI agents. Okay? They get their request granted in extent that they can provide information on agreed narrative summary and reveal hijackers' plans and preparations. Again, they're trying to get the Moussaoui trial record on these lawsuits, and also an interview of Bin al-Shabi, which is a reporter interview. Okay. Now notice it says, otherwise motions are denied. Issues to be tried relate to acts of omissions of the aviation defendants, not the government. So translation, the government's not on the hook for not telling you. Let me repeat that. Acts of omission by the government, A-OK. And you're going to see why in a minute. Because you're not allowed to have the documents that the 9/11 Commission got. You're not allowed to have the FBI investigation depositions. Now, did they get these afterwards? I don't know. We haven't seen all the documents. There's now almost 10,000 documents to go through. All right, so let's get to the next one here. Opinion order, 9/11 Commission report. Defendants seek to discover the irrelevant. The irrelevant. Jury should understand chronology, details, history, policies, protocols, etc. 9/11 report contains much of the information relevant to an understanding of the issues of 9/11. Now here we go. Staff monographs and statements were not approved or endorsed by the commissioners. Findings by commission staff, not public office or agency. Statements refer to initial findings. Monographs and statements are not admissible. What is a monograph? Well, a monograph is a detailed written report. So let's translate this for the people. The staff monographs, aka the investigative reports that were put on paper, you're not allowed to have. Okay, they were not approved or endorsed by the commissioners. So in other words, you find something that's maybe against the narrative they came up with before the 9/11 Commission had even started in reality. You look like Zelikow, Condoleezza Rice connections. These people already knew what they were going to do. Thomas Keane, he knew he was whitewashing. All of them. Lee Hamilton, whitewashing. Okay? So again, you look, I'm gonna bring it up here. The staff monographs, aka the investigation, and the statements of the people they investigated were not approved of or endorsed by the commissioners. And they are not admissible. So they're not admissible in court. All right? Got another super chat. Keipler, I'm sorry, is it Clipper? I'm sorry, I hope I'm saying it right, bro. I want to thank you so much. These are great, and they really do help support. He says, all right, brother, last try for me. I'm telling you with very high certainty, you can search all these without converting the Word docs. No, not to Word docs. I mean, they stay as PDF files when you do it. Even pictures might be able to do a search via OCR. We can help you. All right, man, I'll tell you what. Hit me up in a DM. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it tonight. I just put my sister's kids to bed right before this broadcast. But hit me up in a DM, and I will get you a link to all the documents, everything, so we can database them and try to figure this out so I can more easily search them. Because although I'm kind of tech savvy, I can get to the encryption and decrypt these things and all that. I'm not on tour. I had to be explained the QAnon hoax. By the way, you want real news, we give it to you. I know that DeFango is one of the guys that initially put these out. I don't really know much about him, but I saw him take credit for Q, and I had Titus Frost on my program, who did some very, very good pedogate research, Podesta email research, some stuff that really caught my eye back in the day. And let me just say that, again, he was on my show talking about DeFango and how he started QAnon and how it was at DEF CON and all this other stuff. And I know there might be some believers in Q, but you need to watch that interview. And now DeFango has pretty much confirmed everything he said. We don't go for the hoaxes here, okay? We just don't. It's not something we do. So let's get back into this document and show you that they're probably not going to have any luck not only with the 9/11 Commission, but with the FBI reports as well, okay? Opinion order, whether government failures excuse defendants' fault. Trial will focus on what the aviation defendants knew and should have known, what they did and what they should have done, okay? So there are no triable issues or valid line of reason concerning foreseeability. And again, that's their opinion. And here we go. Opinion order, FBI agent testimony. Defendants seek depositions of 6 FBI agents. U.S. Attorney denied the request. Justice Department affirmed that denial would go on. Requested depositions would be, they'd be wasteful. They'd cause undue delay, and they'd raise national security concerns. Translation. You can't talk to them. We're not giving you the documents. And then you can see right here at the end of it, the government is concerned about the ongoing investigation, and the government is interested. Interest outweighs defendants' needs. See that? So let's say it again. The government outweighs the victims, even if they're lying, even if they're suppressing information. Period. You're reading it. Okay, these are real documents. These are internal documents. I mean, when I told you in the very beginning, I don't know if there's going to be any smoking guns. I'm not sure that there is. I think, again, what I said in the beginning is that there's going to be a lot of affirmations of the lies that they've told. I hope that layers 3, 4, and 5 have much juicier information. I hope that these lawyers did go and, get the relevant police reports for, say, the Israelis that were detained on 9/11. Not only the quote-unquote dancing Israelis, but, of course, the ones that were picked up by the George Washington Bridge later. I think there were 2 separate incidents there, okay, as far as I've seen. On top of that, I'd be interested if there's any documents on Amdocs or Comverse, things that I, again, covered in Fabled Enemies, things you need to check out. Omar Saeed Sheikh, he's the man that facilitated the Pakistani payoff, the payoff to Muhammad Atta for $500,000 through the head of the ISI, who on the morning of 9/11 was having breakfast with Bob Graham and Porter Goss, the 2 people that would initiate the initial congressional investigation. Porter Goss later becoming head of the CIA. Bob Graham talking again in this, and for almost, I believe, 16, 17 years plus before it actually, some of it got declassified, not all, but the 28 pages that talked about Saudi Arabia. But it wasn't just Saudi Arabia. You go to those 28 pages, and there are still names blacked out today. Okay? So, again, I want to thank all you guys for joining me on this really short broadcast. It's not that short. I guess I went for almost a half an hour. But we're showing you the information. You can hit me up over at Jason Burmis on Twitter. That's where most people are giving me these tips. That's where I can communicate with most people. My email gets clogged up. I don't read all the comments, guys. I'm sorry. I try to go through. You got to understand, I'm editing videos all day. I'm doing all these social media. I'm reading documents. I'm trying to take care of my family. But this is something that supersedes us all. This is history. This is something that people need to understand and know. And again, we'll see what comes of the future docs, but the ones I've seen are absolutely real. Thank you all for watching, and I will be back on this subject as I find more information out.